So was your university closed yesterday, Namsu?
Excuse me?
So was your university closed yesterday?
Yeah, I guess so, yes.
Ah, nice. So I'm going to mute myself until we have the others on the call. Oh, give me just a minute. Let me see if Jeff is going to get on the call. Maybe we can wait for a minute more. Hello?
Hello, hey, hello, this is Hua.
Hi, Juan. We just wait for Jeff to get on the call right now.
Okay, no problem. I'm actually calling from my office.
Okay.
I'm not working on something anyway.
Hello.
Hey, this is Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. Okay, so we can get started on the call. We have Hua, Jeff, Jing, Nansu, and Firat. Are you on the call too?
Yes, and Ergin is here too.
Again, okay. Hello, who just joined?
Hello, Alejandra here.
Hi, Alejandra. So, on the agenda, actually, we have very few agenda items for today. One is to talk, we want, of course, as usual, we'll talk about the action items. And then we want to talk about the DATS output mapping that Madhuri, one of the GRAs in the team, did. So Alejandra has reviewed it, and Jeff, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, so maybe there's some issues that we need to talk about before we finalize the mapping.
Was able to look a bit at it, but sort of got waylaid a bit dealing with figuring out what to do with Barack when he's.
Oh yeah.
That sort of through my weekend.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to plan things with his being away.
So is he back?
No, he had surgery on Sunday morning. So he'll be out for a couple weeks.
So, yeah. Okay, so maybe we can look at Alejandra's comments and then, discuss how we want to modify things, if we want to modify it. And then Ian had sent in a document where he had some questions for the BioCADDY workshop agenda. So that's something I want to just also go over. And then if time permits, we can talk about the NCE work. But I don't think we really will need to do that. So for the action items for a repository, we talked about GDC and TCIA, where we are going to have to update transformations to be able to kind of figure out which data sets of the two actually have data that we can use to link the two, right, Jeff?
Yep. Yeah.
And then for NDAR, we actually had a meeting with Greg Faber from NDAR today. And so what came out of that meeting was that Jeff is going to contact NDAR folks about getting about figuring out what's the appropriate API that we need to be using to pull in data. And the other, I think the use case, as we had mentioned, in where we were going to link up, information between different repositories is no longer valid as it applies to NDAR, if I understand correctly. But there might be potentially other things that could be of interest for us to work with. But anyway, Jeff, I was looking at DataMed, and right now we have only NDAR papers that we are pulling in.
Yeah, I'm trying to, let's see. Well, no, because the papers, that's the public data that the data that's been made public, right?
From what
but they have the new, that's why talking with NDA and the new API, because the prior NDAR we had to crawl the website, which was not very. But the new, I was looking at the API for NDA, and they do have some API endpoints. Just whatever I was trying wasn't working as I expected. So when I get in touch with Dan, we should be able to then also, pull information from NDAR directly from the API, hopefully, which would be better than a website crawl.
Okay. So basically, let's just first initially pull in data from there, right? From them, right?
Yeah, and they have a number of different, they have ABCD, they have NDAR, so there are a number of different sort of high-level projects in that are now part of NDA.
So if we ingest from NDA, we would be pulling in all of these other. They are already aggregating, correct? So we don't need to go in for each of those.
Correct. They have 3 or 4 different studies or projects. So NDAR is one of them right now, and they're bringing in more as time goes on. So.
Okay. So NDA should do that, and that's what we're going to do first step.
Yeah.
Also for Viper, I think, or for IRD, we are done with. So do we have any updates for Viper?
We are still working on the matching of the IRD, so probably we will have some updates next week.
Yeah, Barak was working on Viper, but that's sort of on hold for.
Okay, yeah.
The near term as once he's able to type again.
All right. So for import, again, like we talked about, I think we need to go back and take a look at it. And maybe that's something that we will do next as a next step. And for IEDB, I know Philippe said that it's kind of they haven't gone back to it, and there were some questions that they had. So that's something that we are going to have to come back to again. So for ICPSR, again, I haven't set up a meeting yet, so maybe sometime let me find out when George and Matthew are available, and then Jeff, I'll probably ping you to get your availability in the next 2 or 3 weeks. We also had a meeting with Matt from Fitbit, and the plan is for them to first map their data into schema.org, and then they will do the embedding. I think Jeff provided them with quite a bit of information on how to do it and how to tag the data set, the metadata with the schema.org tags, and so we will probably, and then after that they're going to look into mapping into DATS, and if they are already doing it for schema.org, we have schema.org to DATS mapping, right? So that should be relatively easier. The other thing that came up during this conversation was that right now whatever we have done for schema.org is kind of really, we haven't mapped a lot of our elements. So Jeff suggested that maybe we should go back and take a look at it again to map the additional elements. So this is something that we need to do as well.
Anu, sorry.
But since, yeah, go ahead.
No, about the schema.org, I guess that what you are saying, because in the DATS mapping, I believe we covered most things. What happens, I think, is that in the data mesh, what is exported in terms of the schema.org annotation, so what we can see on each page for each data set, that is quite limited.
Correct, yeah.
But relying on the mapping that we have, it could be, similarly to the work that is going to be done in exporting that. So the same elements we have also mapped to schema.org, so it should be quite simple to extend. But indeed, it would be great if it is extended, because what we have at the moment in terms of schema.org is pretty minimal.
Right, so is it then better to first complete the exporting in for that, but that's via for our API, right?
Yeah. The DATS is the API, and it carries over, as Alejandra said, to the schema.org display or the schema.org content, for each data set item. So
then after we finish with the DATS, then we can extend it and get that updated, right? Get the tags updated for schema.org annotations. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it should be fairly straightforward to then just, more content on the pages via schema.org, once the DATS service is complete. Because as Alejandra mentioned, the mapping is already there from DATS to schema.org.
Okay. So just also to, I guess we talked about reviewing, let me see what. The spreadsheet?
Yep. Yeah, most of, Alejandra and I have written a bunch of comments. I think there was, the one question that I sort of had and Alejandra had was the privacy field in DataSet, and I'm not sure. I'd have to look to see what is in privacy actually.
So I found a few. I looked through the web API, and the examples I found weren't too telling about what it means, because it's now I don't remember what it said, but it was something like not available or something. So I wasn't able to find quickly an example where privacy was meaningful. But yeah, so that is one of the things that we need to revise. But overall, I think that the mapping, as you can see, that Madhuri did, is quite straightforward, because it's quite direct, the different elements.
Yeah,
So the
for
only
the,
thing, sorry.
yeah, the main thing in the spreadsheet, for example, for the dates, the types are listed on the property, but it should be realized that the date is a JSON object that has two parts. One is the date, and the second is the type, right? So you put the actual date in the date field, and then you annotate the type within the JSON format. The one other comment that was sort of that Alejandra and I had commented back and forth about, there are some fields in the index, for example, year, for the primary publication that may be there for internal reasons, and that's the same, I think, for formatted citation in publication. So they may not correspond to something that has to be converted, but it's sort of just a helper. Because, for example, in publication, there's a year and a date.
Yes. So what I think I put is that could be mapped to a date, even if we only have the year. In terms of that, it could be mapped to a date, and the format needs to be completed having only the year. And I think it was the publication date, so the type will be publication.
But they should have a date as well. So if it's,
there is a date here too, right?
Yeah.
Row number
right.
16.
And in the data, both of them are completed always, or?
Yeah, we'd have to. I would. Yeah, if date exists, it should default to date, and if not, you can use the year. If that's all that's given.
Okay. Yeah.
So then we need some kind of an annotation here that tells Firat that for these specific things, which he has to write in some, I guess, logic, right?
Yeah, I think that might be the only one. Because having looked through it, the other small thing is that in, for example, data set distribution, there's a stored in field, and that actually, the property is listed as stored in, but that should be stored in .name, because by default, we're putting the name in the stored in field there.
Like this? Jeff, are you on the spreadsheet right now?
Yeah, hold on, I was on the local version of the spreadsheet, not on the.
Oh, okay.
Let me go to the Google.
So if date exists,
Yeah, what I hope is clear that in this mapping, so all the ranges, so the values for these properties are also objects in the terms of that. So it's another schema. So that needs to be taken into account. But I hope that that's clear, and that so Firat can use the validation code to check against the schema.
could you repeat that, Alejandra?
Yes, so for example here, when we say dataset dates,
We
each
cannot
of the
see it. Sorry. Are you sharing something? We cannot see it.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
see me?
I thought I shared it.
Well, we just see the slide with the URL link.
Sorry. So what do you see now? Do you see the spreadsheet?
Nope, see DataMed.
Okay. Do you see the spreadsheet now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I shared it. Sorry about that.
You go up to the data set, dates, which is the third block.
Right.
There, okay, yeah. So Alejandro, you were saying?
Yeah, I'm not looking at the screen, but that you have, but I'm looking at the spreadsheet.
Right.
So what I was saying is that each of these dates, so data set has a set of dates. So each of these, the values, as Jeff mentioned before, this type is actually only one of the elements of the date element in that. So the date itself is like another object which has a date and a type. So here, maybe, I mean, this is not explicit in this mapping, but we can add that this will be the date and a type. So the date will have the value from the JSON. So here I will put it in a way, so value from flat JSON. And the type, in this case, could be released, and so on. But then this date and value combination, it's a new object, a new JSON object.
Okay. It's a new date object, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
So is that
okay.
clear? So.
Yeah. So for every type, you will have value and type, right?
For dates.
For dates, okay.
Uh,
Data type dates. Okay.
So you were saying he can actually check or validate this against a validation tool, right?
Yeah, so once you produce some of the DATS JSON, on the GitHub for DATS, on the WG3 specifications repository, there is some minimal Python code that checks where you can check a JSON file against the JSON schemas for that. So that's a good test if the conversion was correct.
Just for testing, right?
Yes, for testing, yeah.
So Alejandra, just to make sure, so that is here? No. Right?
Sorry, I'm not in ready talk. Let me see.
Oh,
I
okay.
remember a mail you sent, and the script was there. So, Alejandra, you sent an email a month ago, maybe. The script was there.
Yeah, pointing to it's in the DATS repository, in the WG3 specifications repository. I can send you another email, or I'll try to log in now to ReadyTalk.
Okay.
So that's under as far as I can see, there's a working group 3 metadata specifications, and then you have tests, and under that you have test._dats_model.python. So that's a Python script, correct?
Yes, that's probably it. I'm going now to the GitHub to double check the path you say. But yeah, the tests. So in the test, you can see how we are testing against the models for some of the files we provide as examples. So you could do similarly to the test. And the actual validation code is under that.
Okay.
I think, yeah. DATS model. But I mean, I can send you the specific pointer. But the tests are exactly how we are testing our JSON instances that we have in this repository against the JSON schemas.
Okay, so I see there's a validate.py in DATS. Probably that's for the validation, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you see the test, it's importing from DATS. The DATS model, that's where we have the actual validation code.
Okay.
So if you go back to the spreadsheet, yeah. So Alejandra, for dataset distributions, access is its own block, or is it its own object, or?
Yes, it's its own object.
So okay, so that should probably be changed to be data.access, right? The one other thing is I edited the dataset distribution stored in. That should be basically the name element within stored in. That was the one other shortcut.
And then the repository has to be, right?
Tommy?
The
Which one?
data repository.
Yes, in the data repository, I think there
Is
was
separate from the distribution.
Okay.
Right, so the data repository is where that record is being pulled from, and the distributions is where
All
data.
it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So should we map data repository name to stored in here?
Yeah, this would actually be. Hold on. So in the that would be dataset.stored in, right?
Yeah. So
That's actually dataset distributions.stored in, right?
No.
it's data.
There's a dataset distribution which is separate from the data repository. Right? Or actually, it's hold on. I'm trying to.
So in that we have it in both.
Yeah. You have one. There's one in dataset, right?
Yes.
There's stored in the dataset, and that's what we were using to store where this particular record was generated from. And then the distributions are where the data may exist, either in that repository or in others, right?
But then, Jeff, I think in the spreadsheet there is no dataset.stored in.
Hold on, I need to load the. No, there's a dataset.stored in, and that's the data repository type. And there's a dataset distribution. Yeah.
There's a dataset.stored in. I do not see it. I'm just trying to see it.
It's the row 18. Oh, on this one, that would be line 75.
75. But it. Okay.
Yeah, it was for some. it got left. It was originally named after the type, data repository, which is its type.
Okay. Okay.
Where's it,
So our final comments are going to be here, right?
Yeah, we can keep them all in the same spreadsheet. Yeah.
So Firat, can you take a look at this and see if you can work with this mapping?
After the finalization, I can check, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is more or less the final version now. Unless
So
there's something.
My confusions are was in the mail, the store them field and the other fields. So I will check against the input and output files, example input and output file, and see if it works.
Take a look at it and see if you could use, then you can, if with this mapping file, it would be okay for you to do the conversion. If there's any other, point of confusion, we can always again bring it back.
Yeah, sure.
Here.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm always checking, and after the finalization, I will check it again.
Okay. So do you have the link to this spreadsheet? I think I sent it out to everybody, but I can send it out again to you.
Yeah, I have.
You do? Okay, good. So then once you have some that you're exporting or you validated, then maybe Jeff and Alejandra, we can let you know, and then you can take a look at it again just to make sure that it looks okay for different repositories and stuff like that.
Sure. You mean the DATS output or?
Yeah, the DATS output basically.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I'm sure even if, Firat is going to check, right, by himself too, but it would be good to make sure that we have two more people who are checking it, and then before we say, okay, this is completed and we actually implement it in the production system. Okay, so that's progress. Good progress for today. For the BioCADDY workshop, so there's a workshop that's being planned, as I had mentioned last time, and Ian had a couple of questions. I don't know, Jeff, if you had time to take a look. Some of these things we talked about, right? But then maybe with Brock not being there, is there so we are not going to then have anything where we could talk about updating of the repositories, correct?
Well, that's he was testing that, so it's there, but not in the final version right now. But so, do we need?
I guess what
answer for these, or what do we want to?
Yeah, I put this up on Google Drive.
Okay.
Let me pull that up quickly, but okay. Let me pull it up here. we just need to, I guess what I want to do is to address this and send it back to Ian, and then he can always come back to us if he has any other questions.
Okay. Resolving duplicates, I mean, that's the whole primary.
Yeah, I think I can write what we are doing currently, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So those are the topics that we need to present at the workshop?
For us, I think they want to talk about the draft topics that Ian has formulated. Because I think Dave, Ian and Allison were talking about actually going over lessons learned during this 3.5 years. During the workshop. Right, Jeff?
Somehow I cannot hear your voice completely. It's like stopped in the middle.
Oh, okay. So Dave, Allison, and Ian were talking about lessons learned during these 3.5 years of the project. And I think from that discussion during the steering committee meeting, this draft list of topics came up.
And I guess if those are the topics we're going to present, then we maybe need to divide the work a little bit. I'm talking about among different groups, like Jeff can answer ingestion questions, then Susanna can help with metadata, and we can talk about like search using ontology, things like that.
So this, from what I understand, I don't know if they want us to present, basically.
Well,
they want to have a discussion.
It's just like a roundtable discussion.
Isn't that right, Jeff?
I mean, it was a workshop format, but I wasn't clear how much, presentation versus, because when you look at the list, it's like issues encountered, what approaches work best, and that's sort of, sort of us giving input, but. So I mean, it's sort of. It's meant to be a workshop. The question is then, what is the actual interactive piece, right?
Right, and I still.
Most of this is, us presenting. I mean, when you read it, it still reads more like, presentation rather than discussion.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
So maybe they will. So the other thing that I wanted to ask about, and I think I did ask Philippe last time, for the data type, right? We did not finalize because I think we weren't sure yet on what the values were in terms of the data types in DataMed.
Mm-hmm.
So, now Burak. Is there any way for us to pull out the values for data type from DataMed, Jeff? I mean, from the index?
We should be able to, yeah. Well, wasn't there? I mean, but we'd gone through some work on a data type ontology, right? The first there's a first version of that in the.
Right.
GitHub.
Right. I think.
The conference has been unmuted.
So as I remember, there was the first pass, right?
Right. So, what I mean.
Let me
I know
go
that.
back here.
I mean, for some of the questions, like what ontologies were considered, I mean that might actually be in the. In the ontology file itself.
Yeah, I think we have only 4 from what I can see. Is that right, Alejandra? Yeah. So basically it's from Go, Geo Material, Geo Processes, EDAM topics. Those are the 4 that we looked or we used. But that doesn't tell us all. So Alejandra, did you all look at other ontologies before settling on these 4? Or is that too far ago for you to remember? Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I just wasn't sure. So I can't hear Alejandra though.
Yeah, no, but in the I mean, we can just assign questions. So I mean, I can take the update question.
So then what I can do is I can just assign questions to different people here,
questions.
and then we'll see the answers as they come up.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess these 2 probably. Okay, that sounds, maybe the duplicates, I'll take a pass at it, and then Jeff, you can go in and see if it's okay. I think that's it for discussion with regard to whatever questions Ian had for the BioCADI workshop. I still haven't, I mean, this didn't come up at all with any discussion with Elizabeth yet, but I will send her an email just to let her know about your and Jeff's availability, so that she knows it up front.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much all we wanted to talk today. Jeff, is there anything else we should be talking about?
No, I mean, I think I think we covered all the sort of the ongoing topics.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right.
Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? If not, then we'll finish like 10 minutes early.
All right. Thanks, Anu. Thanks, Jeff. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.